Greetings. In those videos, we are responding to the rotten Zionists among the Christians and the Jews. However, remember that I keep repeating, please remember this. Not all the Christians are rotten Zionists. Not all the Jews are rotten Zionists. But those Zionists are among them, the Jews and the Christians. We are responding to their lies, stupid, rotten lies, that Palestine was a land with no people for people with no land. And in the last videos, we have discussed from the book of Judges and the book of Samuel. And believe me, if you go read on your own those two books, Judges and Samuel, all over the book, all over, it's mentioned so many times, it really gets you a headache. How many times the word Philistine, the Palestinians, and the land of the Philistines is mentioned. So, not only those Zionists are rotten by nature, but they are always rotten by information. What does it take for those rotten to understand? We are talking about the Palestinians 3,000 years back. Rome did not exist back then. So, in the matter of fact, those rotten Zionists need some education. So they need to go to read the book of Judges and the book of Samuel to see how 3,000 years back Palestinians were mentioned all over the book. And those are not the only two places. It is mentioned through the whole Old Testament. So, let us continue this discussion. Let's go to the book of Zephaniah 2, chapter 2. It says, and Ekron was uprooted. Okay, now we go to verse 5. It says, woe to you who live by the sea, you Kerethites people, the word of the Lord is against you, Canaan. The word of the Lord is against you, Canaan, land of the Philistines. The word of the Lord is against you, Canaan, land of the Philistines. Why the rotten Zionists do not see this? Why they do not understand it? It's very simple, very clear. Canaan, land of the Philistines. Canaan existed 4,000, 5,000 years back. Rome existed 2,000 years back. The difference in time is so huge, thousands of years. Rome has nothing to do with naming this land, the land of the Philistines, or naming the people by the Philistines, Palestinians. They existed long before Rome. Let's go to the book of Amos, chapter 6, verse 2. It says, Habakkuk, okay, hold on. The burden which Habakkuk the prophet did see. Verse 6 says, for lo, I raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, which shall march through the breadth. All right, well, I think this discussion should be in a different time. All right, at this point, rotten Zionists, hear this. Rome has nothing to do with naming the Palestinians. The Philistines existed 2,000, 3,000 years before Rome ever existed. England has nothing to do with this. England divided the province of Syria into 4 countries. Today's Syria, today's Lebanon, today's Jordan, today's Palestine. But has nothing to do with naming the people or the land. The land was always Palestine, Philistine. Even as I showed you in the book of Exodus 3,000 years back, when Moses was taking the Israelis to Palestine, God, your scripture says, God did not want to lead them through the land, through the Philistine country. This is the Philistine country 1,000 years before Rome ever existed. Not to mention England. England existed long after that. England existed in the recent history, nevertheless. Very well. At this point, we understand now. The Lord promised the land to the offspring of Abraham. However, at this point, we understand, and we're trying to make them understand, those rotten Zionists, that this is the land of the Philistines, Palestine, the land of the Palestinians. We will discuss now what happened, what kind of promise the Lord gave to the Israelis to go to Palestine, the land of the Palestinians, Philistine country. Under what condition, under what situation? This is not a promised land for the Israelis. We explained this during those last videos. God said, not because you are righteous, you are rotten, you are not righteous, but because He made a promise to Abraham. He is trying to fulfill His promise to Abraham, not to the Israeli Jews. This is not a promised land to the Israeli Jews. It's a promised land to the offsprings of Abraham, and we know from history, for a fact, and this history we know about for the last thousands of years, this land was always in the hand of the children of Ishmael, not the children of Isaac. That's the simplest, way we can put it. And since we proved before in the previous videos how Ishmael was the firstborn to Abraham, his offspring, then in this case, also we have to say, then this promise of the land is for Ishmael, not for Isaac, who came always for a visit and for short times stay. He didn't stay for too long at any stage. He always came for a few years and then plucked out, thrown out. And recently we know that for the almost 2,000 years, they are plucked out from Palestine and thrown all over the world, from one corner to the other, according and based on the threat that the Lord made in Deuteronomy 28, starting with verse 64, not to mention other places, in Isaiah, in Jeremiah, from Moses himself. Moses told them the Lord will pluck them. They will not stay too long in the land. But guess what? The Palestinians never left. The Canaanites were always there. They were always there. From the day that the Lord said to Abraham, leave your country, your people, and go to Canaan. To Canaan. From that time. And when Jesus came 2,000 years back, the story in book of Matthew in the New Testament says, a Canaanite woman came pleading, begging Jesus to heal her child. And according to them, Jesus said, don't throw the bread of the children to the dogs and the pigs. The Canaanites, in the eyes of the Jews, are pigs and dogs. That's how Palestinians look in the eyes of the Israelis. But I don't believe this is Jesus speaking. This was Matthew, or Mark, or Luke, or John, who wrote those books, accusing Jesus of saying. But this is a different debate for a different time. Take care.